Welcome to English Central's second Edugeek webinar, the Minimax Teacher.
All right, someone has typed in, at least I'm only two colors. I think that's still a little vague. It could be. I'm not sure if that's picture one or picture two.
Ooh.
Oh, nice. We've got, are we headed to the Pride Parade? Oh, I can only imagine if that's picture one.
They're proud of their poo.
All right, Carla's saying it's definitely number one. All right, Tyson, did you have a little three-line dialogue you wanted to share? All right, so everybody have a listen. Tyson's going to give his dialogue, and then we'll type in which picture you think he's referring to.
And you'll have no idea.
Yeah.
Okay. I feel so gay. I think that's the point. But I'm not gay.
Oh, that poor little baby.
Now you have to pick out which...
Oh, Wendy's suggesting it's picture number one, and it's Eeyore talking.
Come on. This is a family show.
Oh, I'm sorry. Wendy says sorry. Sorry,
No,
Wendy. I
I'm
probably
just
shouldn't have
kidding.
said it out loud. All right. I think I'm gonna take a stab at it.
All
Number
right.
two.
It was number two, as a matter of fact.
There you go.
Yeah. And can you figure out which dog was the first one that said, I feel so gay?
Number the
The green one.
the green. No.
Yeah, it was the... No,
This
it's
is-
the green one, because the green one isn't gay, because look at his face.
Oh.
What?
Humiliated, like, oh.
Whereas the other one's really into it.
Oh.
The other one's watching afraid. Alright, so my logic... Whatever.
Well, this is how discussions start.
Yeah.
We've got a great kid. I have to read Carla's out loud here. Who is the grown-up here? I'm the smallest, but why am I the one on the bottom? Excellent, Carla. Thank you. Oh my goodness. Okay, so the activity obviously is people writing three-line dialogues, but you can collect the dialogues and then you jumble them up. You hand out random dialogues to the students in the class again. They read them in their pairs and they walk around trying to find the relevant photo. You would obviously use more than two photos, but for our purposes we just use two. So if once they've found the photo that they think matches their dialogue, they write the number of the photo under the dialogue and their names. Then they put the dialogues back into the pile and they choose another one to see if they agree or disagree with it, or if it's a dialogue that no one has written on or you know, matched up to a picture yet. And then the original, the dialogues are returned to the original writers, who judge the winners from the list at the bottom of the page to see who actually guessed the pictures properly. And you can also direct the content a little bit. So for example, if you want to do some functional practice, asking a favor. So can you imagine what would anybody be asking a favor?
I'm going to censor myself. I'm afraid what might come out.
Okay,
So,
Hurry up,
fair
take
Tyson?
the picture.
All right, or maybe apologize, or anyway, there's lots of functions that you could actually practice using the same type of thing. Okay, all right, now moving quickly along, it's taken a little bit longer, but technical difficulties at the beginning, but I also wanted to show this really nice ode to a poem, which is another activity from this book, and this is in that section that's called inspirational writing. Again, to kind of get people involved in looking at the creative side of writing, but again in a student-generated and a personalized way. Okay, so this is basically what you write on the board or you dictate to students, and I'll give you an example, but what I'll do is I'm not going to tell you the object. Okay, so this is a variation on this one. So if students are writing this, you could still have them complete this, but then cross out the object or avoid writing down the name of the object. They can post them around the room, and then other people could put in, write in what they think the object is or what the poem is. Okay, so I'm going to read this one out loud. I'm not going to tell you the object. You type in what you think it is. Okay, so bright silver in the night sky, spinning through space, silently, slowly, in the night sky, bright silver, shining, lost. So what do you think it is? Right? Write it in the question box. Wow, they're stumped.
Nobody has a hand.
Well, people may be thinking that it's my grandfather's remains, but we went through this earlier, and it was kind of clarified that that's not what she was thinking of. So
Okay. All right,
it might be a bit more obvious.
Ludmilla has contributed. The moon. Yes.
Yay!
Congratulations, Ludmilla.
All right. Yes, it is the moon. But I thought it was a very nice idea of just highlighting, again, student-centered, that it's very personalized, student-generated, and again, you can make it more interactive by creating some kind of information gap with it as well. We don't, unfortunately, have time for all you guys to create your own ode to poems, but I would, just like before we finish as well, I want to focus on a couple things that is important to keep in mind when you're dealing with activities. So because we are talking about personalizing activities, having things being very student-generated, I think it's also important to think of the activities and the lesson from the student's perspective. And so here's a couple things to keep in mind. So as far as varying your activities goes, I think it's important to remember not to be creative in only one area. So for example, everybody themselves has their own learning preferences. You might be an auditory learner, kinesthetic, visual. A lot of us are visual learners. But as teachers, that often impacts on the types of activities that we choose to do with our classes. We're automatically drawn to things that we ourselves would like to do. And so sometimes you can forget to vary the activities and do things that don't necessarily appeal to your way of learning, but would appeal to your students' way of learning. I think it's important to bring yourself into the class too. So if you're asking students to share their lives, I think it's very important that you share your own experiences and feelings too, so they don't feel, you know, like they're being put through hoops or in a zoo or something.
Yeah.
You know, as can happen. I don't know.
I feel that way every day.
Oh, okay. Not going to go there. All right, the thing about feedback I think is really, really important too. I've seen a lot of lessons kind of go off the rails because the activity's been really good, but then there's been no feedback. And that can result, I think, in one of two issues where a student might say, okay, that was really fun, but it was a waste of time. I don't know what I learned. And the other alternative is something like a teacher saying, okay, well, I've just spent 10 minutes talking about my most terrifying experience, and all the teacher said was, okay, thanks, now let's look at some errors that you made. I think both of those are kind of extreme. One is just task feedback, and the other is just error-based feedback. You need both. And I think it's very important to acknowledge the effort that students put into what they're creating, respond authentically to what they're creating, but then also focusing on the language or the sub-skills that they have been working on, so that they do walk out of the classroom still feeling like they've you know, practiced something, that they've learned something they didn't know before they came in. And then I find that students are much more willing to put themselves out, because at the end of the day you're asking them to invest in it. You're asking them to put part of themselves into the lesson, and they're switching from a passive to an active role, and I think people need to feel acknowledged and respected for having done that. And the last point as well is the methodology. There's some classes and some students who are really not used to this type of communicative methodology. They're more into the gap fills, the chalk and talk, the lecturing, and so I think that although we see the value in these activities, they may not initially, and so it's very important to, for those type of classes or those type of students, to introduce it to them slowly.